Chapter 12. 12.1. No image form of Ishwar is needed. Arjun speaks. Verse number 1. Arjun spoke of the two categories of persons, one keeping in view the manifest Brahm while always engaged in practicing his teachings etc., and the other, keeping in view of the non-manifest Brahm for whom it will be easier to practice the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam. Comments. Chapter 12 may be considered as an extension and reiteration of Chapter 2, 3 and 4. It may be kept in view that Arjun had requested Shri Krishna in Shlok numbers 3 and 4 of Chapter 11 to let Arjun see the actual real view of the Brahm. In Shlok numbers 5 to 8 of Chapter 11, Shri Krishna describes to Arjun the features of the Brahm as a living person to be seen. In Shlok numbers 9 to 14 of Chapter 11, Sanjay gives description to Dhritarashtra of the Brahm as the eternal living person. Of course, thereafter, Arjun is also able to have the holy sight of the eternal Brahm's universal, body form as a living person as described by him in Shlok numbers 15 to 31 of Chapter 11. Arjun's fear and tremble and dazzled eyes are also described by Sanjay. Particularly, see Shlok number 35 of Chapter 11. In the above background, Arjun asks the questions set out in Shlok number 1 of Chapter 12. The answer to Arjun's questions are set out in Shlok numbers 2 to 20 of Chapter 12. Reference may be made to Shlok number 3 of Chapter 8, the translation whereof is reproduced here. Brahm is the imperishable, supreme divine living person. His eternal nature is called the soul self, Atman. He causes the spread of the living beings. Process relating to production and growth, progress, of the material bodies of the living beings is included in action, karma. The objective of Arjun in asking the above question was as much to hide his fears as also to show that he has his wits back. His question wrongly assumes that any form image of Brahm is required by anyone to become a stoic or for auto-elevation spiritually, including the merging with the Brahm, or for auto-gains materially. No such form image of Brahm is required according to the sermon of Bhagwat Gita, because what a person has to know, understand, follow, practice and take action according to the principles enunciated by the Brahm himself, who is the eternal living person and has created the universe. Please inter alia see Shlok numbers 9 to 14 of Chapter 3, Shlok number 1 of Chapter 4. These principles were reiterated by the Brahm's alter ego Shri Krishna. Please inter alia see Chapters 2, 3 and 4 of this sermon. When Brahm is happy with a dry leaf, Shlok number 26 of Chapter 9, which really means no offerings in any form, whether havan, severe penance, charities, rituals, ceremonies, etc., or even his praise is required. The only path shown for a person living in the society is of the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam, including collection of correct information, Jnana Yoga, correct and rational analysis for correct decision, Buddhi Yoga with Sankhya, and taking of correct action, Karma Yoga. The question put by Arjun in Shlok number 1 of Chapter 12 arises from his personal disposition of fear, tremble, scattered wits and dazzled eyes. So he thought as to how anyone can keep in view the awful image of the Brahm. It will be relevant to state here that Sanjay seems to have not been affected like Arjun. Moreover, the omni-body included personification of time, which made the body awful by showing swallowing of planets, men etc. Therefore, a comparison is sought to be made by him between the image of the Brahm as a living person, the manifested Brahm and the concept of the non-manifest Brahm, though as a living person, as the Brahm himself stated that his forms are beyond account. Please see Shlok number 40 of chapter 10. On that basis, the question should be interpreted and understood. There is absolutely no competition controversy between Brahm's alter ego Shri Krishna and the Ishwar Brahm himself. An alter ego, the second self, may virtually be the self. But the alter ego, the second self, can never actually be the self. The shlok and the following shloks are not applicable to persons who do not require an image or form of the Brahm or even the concept of a non-manifest Brahm, because this class of persons believes in knowing, understanding, following and acting upon the principles laid down by the Brahm himself. Inter alia refer to Shlok number 1 of chapter 4, Eternal Triad Avyayam Yogam, Shlok numbers 9 to 14 of chapter 3, and as reiterated by the Brahm's alter ego Shri Krishna, the second self. This class of persons fully believes in the Ishwar Brahm as defined inter alia in Shlok number 3 of chapter 8. This class does not need his image form. Numbers 7 and 8 of ch. 12 assure such persons deliverance from this mortal world. This means that the person's soul merges with the Brahm. 12.2 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 2. Shri Krishna spoke as Brahm. Those who keep in view the manifested Brahm and always sincerely and attentively practice his teachings, etc., Brahm considers it easier for them to practice the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam. Comments. The second self alter ego Shri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 1 to 5 of chapter 12 may be read together. In the above shlok, Brahm's alter ego Shri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. He is not speaking as second self, Brahm's alter ego. As noticed earlier, often Brahm's alter ego speaks as the self, the Brahm. An alter ego, i.e. the second self, can never be the self. Before the manifestation of Shri Krishna as alter ego of the Brahm, Shri Ram had been manifested by the Brahm as his alter ego, the second self. Shri Ram's relationship with the Brahm was of the same nature as that of Shri Krishna with the Brahm. Therefore, if the above shlok had mentioned the name of Shri Ram as the manifested form to be kept in view along with the name of Shri Krishna, the two manifestations of the Brahm could be acceptable as the intendment of the shlok. Otherwise also, after the demise of Shri Krishna, his giving up the physical body, there will be no manifested form to keep in view if there already existed no manifested form in spite of the manifestation of Shri Ram. It is therefore submitted that the above shlok refers to the manifestation of the Brahm and not of Shri Krishna personally. Another reason for the above stated view is that throughout this sermon Shri Krishna is laying very great stress on providing shortest route to spiritual elevation inclusive of reaching the Ishwar Brahm. This is by providing auto-bypasses and auto-elevations inter alia by way of cutting out of a whole lot of religionism, i.e. ceremonies, incantations, havans, charities, severe penance, rituals, etc. on one side. On the other hand, Shri Krishna is laying very great stress on minimizing the importance of different deities. Also, all intermediaries, whether by way of priests, high priests, etc., or by way of deities, are really sought to be sidelined. The entire object seems to be to lead us to one Ishwar Brahm as an eternal living person, with all living beings having a fragment of his soul as their soul, and also by laying down that Ishwar Brahm alone gives justice to each soul individual according to the actions, karmas. Plethora of deities is sought to be sidelined. Therefore, Sri Krishna also cannot make himself as yet another deity. He cannot be the Ishwar the Brahm because of the very constraints of his creation for the limited purpose and for a limited period of time. Note: the expression Yuktatamah in the above shlok has the same meaning as Yog Vittamah in shlok number 1 of chapter 12. Both refer to Yog, Avyayam Yogam. 12.3 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 3. Those who keep in view the firm, unchanging, inconceivable, beyond description by words, omnipresent, non-manifest eternal Brahm but practice his teachings etc. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Please also refer inter alia to shlok numbers 20 to 27 of chapter 1, 13, 15, 44 to 48 of chapter 2, 39 of chapter 4 for further elucidation, if required. 12.4 Only path. Good of all. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 4. Whose all senses are under their control, and they continue as equipoised persons everywhere, and they are working occupied for the well-being for all living beings, may attain the Brahm. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 1 to 5 of chapter 12 may be read together. The above shlok shows the concern of Sri Krishna for the well-being of all the living beings on the earth. This will include all forms of life including plant life, animal life etc. Sri Krishna's concept of universal brotherhood is clearly visible as part of Brahm's teachings etc. In the good of all lies the good of the individual. The only path of the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam, including correct knowledge, correct analysis and correct action has to be followed. 12.5 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 5. With undivided attention, attached to the non-manifest Brahm, such humans may therefore have hardship or difficulty in reaching him. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 1 to 5 of chapter 12 may be read together. 12.6 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 6. Those who with undivided attention carry on their all actions activities for the Brahm sincerely keeping him in view and for him without attachment I follow and practice his teachings, conduct, words, actions etc. and as reiterated by Sri Krishna. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 6 to 11 of chapter 12 may be read together. For comments see Shlok number 11 of chapter 12. 12.7 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 7. Steadfastly and with undivided attention, Brahm causes their deliverance from ocean-like mortal world in short period of time, O Arjun. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 6 to 11 of chapter 12 may be read together. The above shlok should not be understood literally because as a result of following the teachings etc. which includes the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam, actions of such a person are bound to lead to auto-elevation spiritually and auto-gains materially while passing through auto-bypasses. This journey is likely to end by merger with the Ishwar Brahm. It may be clearly understood that the Ishwar Brahm has no favorites. He follows the actions etc. of the individual living being. 12.8 Follow teaching etc. Merge with Brahm. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 8. If one directs one's intellect and attention to regularly following and practicing Brahm's teachings etc., and as reiterated by Sri Krishna, he may merge with the Ishwar Brahm, there is no doubt. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 6 to 11 of chapter 12 may be read together. For comments, please see Shlok number 11 of chapter 12. What is stated in the above Shlok is for all living beings including Arjun. 12.9. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 9. If anyone was not always able to carry on the activities according to the teachings etc. of the Brahm and as reiterated by Sri Krishna, he should steadfastly try, practice, to follow the teachings etc. of the Brahm and attain the Brahm, O Dhananjay. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. The above shlok contains an instruction for all indicating the process for developing higher intellectual power through collection of more and correct knowledge information, Jnana Yoga, correct analysis applied intellect including rationality Sankhya, Buddhi Yoga, by means of higher concentration of consciousness and applied intellect. This is how the shlok has to be followed. 12.10. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 10. If one by effort and practice, one still fails, one should act according to the real purport of the teachings etc. of the Brahm and as reiterated by Sri Krishna. This will lead one to attain perfection. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Reference is invited to Shlok number 43 of chapter 6 etc. It is mentioned that a perfect person, Siddh, may attain Moksha Nirvan. The saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again applies fully. In these two shloks, Sri Krishna is indicating the practical way to carry on any activity with accuracy by following the teachings etc. of the Brahm and as reiterated by Sri Krishna. Deficiency in performance has to be found by proper analysis and removed. Shlok numbers 9 and 10 of chapter 12 contain general instructions for all kinds of activity. This is followed by Shlok number 11 of chapter 12 which becomes more specific. Shlok number 12 of chapter 12 is again of general application. According to the meaning of the expression Matartham given above, if one fails after trials, one should carefully try to find the deficiency in the process by correct analysis etc. The shortcoming could be discovered. This view accords with Shlok number 11 of chapter 12. 12.11. Act for me. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 11. If anyone fails to act for any foregoing reasons, he should take support of the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam, and take correct action ignoring the result thereof. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 6 to 11 of chapter 12 may be read together. Reference is invited to Shlok numbers 49, 61, 65 of chapter 2, 3, 12 and 30 of chapter 3, 1, 2, 12 of chapter 5 etc. Further, reference is invited to Shlok numbers 32, 33 of chapter 11, where Sri Krishna clearly declared that the Brahm has already killed the warriors, and that Arjun has only to get credit for eliminating the evildoers. It seems that in the above Shlok, if read along with Shlok numbers 32, 33 of chapter 11, Sri Krishna is urging Arjun not to be burdened by with resultant killings as no sin will attach. even on the basis of discharge of duty and without longing for a particular result, and further the action being for the Brahm, i.e. for the cause of dharma, what ought to be done, no sin will attach to Arjun's actions by which the enemy will be eliminated. 12.12 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 12. The process of learning leads to gain of knowledge. Thereafter, one focuses on the same by means of rational thinking. Only by rational thinking, one is able not to long for a particular result of action. This obviously will lead to peace of the consciousness of the soul. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 12 may be read together. If one does not long for a result, naturally, he has a peaceful consciousness. In this situation, no feeling of guilt arises or attaches to one's soul. The above thought is repetition of the thoughts already given in detail in chapter 2 and 3 of the sermon. Particularly, see Shlok number 1555, 61 of chapter 2, 19, 20 of chapter 3, 24 to 42 of chapter 4, etc., and which are covered by the expression the eternal triad, Avyayam Yogam, in Shlok number 1 of chapter 4. Note. The chain of shloks clearly indicates that the subject matter therein is mainly cause and effect. Therefore, the above shlok does not contain any comparison between one or more conditions processes. 12.13 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 13. The person who is not jealous of anyone, is friendly towards all living beings and is sympathetic to all, who is bereft of ego and attachment, who retains his cool in distress and happiness, and who is patient. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 2 may be read together. 12.14 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 14. A stoic is always satisfied, self-controlled, with clear determination, his consciousness and intellect trust Brahm, and who follows his teachings, etc., is also dear to the Brahm. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 12 may be read together. In Shlok numbers 13, 14 of chapter 12, Arjun is being reminded of what has already been stated in Shlok numbers 15, 55, 61 of chapter 2, 19, 20 of chapter 3, 24 to 42 of chapter 4. 12.15 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 15. Who does not perturb the persons, inhabitants, nor is perturbed himself by the persons, inhabitants, who is free from delight and anger, fear and agitation, he is also dear to the Brahm. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. The Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 12 may be read together. 12.16 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 16. Who does not expect anything from anyone, is pure, is expert in his work, is impartial, is not distressed, is bereft of over-jealousness, who follows Brahm's teachings, etc., is also dear to the Brahm. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 12 may be read together. 12.17 Ishwar speaks. Verse number 17. A person who is neither delighted nor is jealous, neither feels distressed nor has high ambitions, who is not motivated by the thought of auspicious or inauspicious, who follows Brahm's teachings etc. is also dear to the Brahm. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. In the above shlok, Sri Krishna is once again referring to a stoic person referred to in the earlier shlok numbers 15, 49, 50, 55, 61 of chapter 2, 19, 20 of chapter 3, 10, 12, 19 to 23 of chapter 4, 13, 14 of chapter 12 etc. 12.18. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 18. The person who can be just to friend and foe, maintains his equanimity in honor and insult, hot and cold climates, in happiness or in distress, who is not attached. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 12 may be read together. 12.19. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 19. Who can tolerate criticism and appreciation alike, who can be quite satisfied with his life? Who has no attachment to any fixed place abode, but has steady applied intellect and follows Brahm's teachings etc. is also dear to the Brahm. Comments. The second self-alter ego Sri Krishna speaks as the self, the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of chapter 12 may be read together. 12.20. Ishwar speaks. Verse number 20. The person who faithfully practices the aforesaid highest moral principles and Brahm's teachings etc. is very much blessed one by the Brahm. Comments. Sri Krishna speaks as the Brahm. Shlok numbers 12 to 20 of ch.12 have a common link. The shloks set out certain qualities which Ishwar wants to exist in human beings. We are assured that by developing those qualities, we can be near to Brahm. These qualities include the quality of correct understanding and ultimately taking of correct action. The teachings etc. of the Brahm and as reiterated by Sri Krishna will, as a matter of course, result in happiness and prosperity in this life on earth. Continued practice of the said teachings etc., of which the above said qualities are a part, may ultimately result in merger with the Brahm. The litmus test explanation on way. The version as disclosed by Sanjay to Dhritarashtra and as written down by Sri Ved Vyas was correct. The accuracy of the version is assured by Sri Ved Vyas in recording the sermon of Bhagwat Gita. The contents of the sermon are no ordinary matter. In fact, it is disclosure by the Brahm and his alter ego Sri Krishna of a rare, less known, fine and specialized knowledge on different aspects, but all related to the everyday life situations like as to what is right and what ought to be done, dharma, including exhortations to fight. Therefore, the warning regarding careful disclosure has been given in number 67 of ch.18 to avoid out of context interpretation. This was also to avoid any hasty, blasphemous or irreverent reference to the Brahm Ishwar. To correctly and properly understand the sermon, one has to have a certain intellectual make-up, tenacity, keen wish to know deeper aspects of knowledge including its innumerable branches. In some branches etc., a person must have a positive attitude to know and learn with an open and rational intent. Another reason against hasty interpretation and casual conversation about the sermon was that a person, in the above shlok Arjun, may not correctly recollect what had been said and in what context particular words and ideas had been placed. The apprehension of Brahm's alter ego Sri Krishna as expressed in the above shlok, in fact came out to be true. What was opposed clearly by the sermon has been sought to be watered down if not effaced. Examples of such deviations, deliberate or otherwise, can be cited easily. Only by way of illustration, reference is invited to Shlok numbers 48, 53, 54 of chapter 11, etc. The strained and forced reading of bhakti into the sermon will not be right. Similarly, reference to Shlok number 1 of chapter 4 will clearly show that strained and forced reading of knowledge, information, Gyan, alone as path to salvation into the sermon will not be right. The sermon prescribes only one path of Avyayam Yogam, including correct action, Karma Yoga, after collection of correct information knowledge, Gyan Yoga, and its correct analysis applied intellect including rationality, Buddhi Yoga including Sankhya. As stated in Shlok number 1 of chapter 4, the sermon sets out and reiterates the ancient most knowledge. The correctness of any scripture, theory, philosophy, etc. should be judged by the tests revealed in the sermon of the Bhagavad Gita.